Nyck De Vries' shock sacking by Alpha Tauri has really shook things up across the grid. Rumours about replacements for Sergio Perez are now growing as Daniel Ricciardo's appointment is seen as a threat to the Mexican. But has anyone taken a moment to think about poor Nycky? After years of standing at Toto Wolff's shoulder, waiting for his shot, he's been sacked after just 10 races. Is Alpha Tauri right to get rid of him? Today, we'll look at the reasons behind his dismissal and what he plans to do to get back racing as soon as possible. Let's get started. Daniel Ricciardo is making a surprise return to Formula 1 and will drive for Red Bull's sister team Alpha Tauri for the rest of the season. The wording of Red Bull's statement very specifically states that Daniel is being loaned to Alpha Tauri for the year, implying he isn't going to be there for 2024. The 34-year-old Australian, who was released by McLaren last year, will race at the Hungarian Grand Prix on the 23rd of July. He replaces Nyck De Vries, who's been dropped after only 10 races. The 28-year-old Dutch rookie has lost his drive after failing to pick up a single point, as well as having several crashes and struggling for form in comparison with younger teammate Yuki Tsunoda. Alpha Tauri team principal Franz Tost said, "I'm very pleased to welcome Daniel back into the team. There's no doubt about his driving skill, and he already knows many of us, so his integration will be easy and straightforward. The team will also profit a lot from his experience, as he is an 8-time Formula 1 Grand Prix winner. I would like to thank Nyck for his valuable contribution during his time with Scuderia Alpha Tauri, and I wish him all the best for the future." The sacking of De Vries came as a bit of a shock to many people. It's not that they didn't see it coming, it was just the timing. We even released a video half an hour before the announcement, saying he's probably gone, but it won't be till the summer break. De Vries himself will have been incredibly disappointed in not getting more time. His home race in the Netherlands is just after the summer break after all, but Red Bull had their reasons. With De Vries, a former Formula E champion with Mercedes, being a lot older than most F1 rookies, the pressure was immediately on to perform. But De Vries failed to live up to the expectations placed on him by Helmut Marko, who has explained in detail to Dutch publication De Telegraaf why the decision was made to drop him. "We contacted Nyck because he performed great at Monza last year," Marko said, referring to De Vries' drive to 8th place at Monza last year as he substituted for the ill Alex Albon. "We expected him to be at least equal to his teammate Yuki Tsunoda this year, but that was not the case. Actually, he was always 0.3 of a second slower. We didn't see any improvement. He's 28 years old, has a lot of experience, and has also been able to gain a lot of knowledge as a test driver in various Formula 1 cars. You can't compare him to a young rookie in my eyes." This is an important point to remember when considering De Vries. He is a Formula 2 champion and a Formula E champion. He has raced in a Formula 1 car and has been involved in far more tests than any other rookie coming into the sport. He has far more racing experience than the normal F2 graduate, especially at a senior level, where he's driven in Formula E for 3 seasons as well as plenty of endurance racing. De Vries may have been new to a full-time seat in Formula 1, but he's far more experienced than any other driver joining the grid for the first time. The problem for Red Bull was that he didn't show the potential to improve from where he was. At the end of April in Baku, he started the weekend well, and I thought he was going to perform better, but then he crashed again. He, unfortunately, didn't do one super lap that we were amazed by, said Marko. Marko, a man known for his unrelenting and occasionally brutal honesty, said De Vries lacked the pace to be in the sport. "We had to do something," he explained. "Why should we wait, and what do 2 more races matter if you don't see any improvement? Nyck is a very pleasant guy, but the speed just wasn't there." Say what you will about Helmut Marko, but he knows Formula 1 drivers. At 28, Nyck wasn't an age where Alpha Tauri could shape him into something. They didn't see the potential, and 10 race weekends is plenty of time to assess that. Unsurprisingly, Marko doubts another F1 door will open for the ousted De Vries, and pointed him off in the direction of the World Endurance Championship. "Another F1 seat will be difficult, I think," he said. "But at the same time, I do think he saw this coming. I think he can build a nice career in long-distance racing. It is easy to forget sometimes, but there is a racing world outside of Formula 1. Nyck might not be racing here anymore, but there are plenty of other places he can go. He has a promising career in endurance racing, having already won the 6 Hours of Fuji and got podium finishes at the 8 Hours of Bahrain and the 6 Hours of Monza. Formula E is definitely open to him. I have no doubt a team would be keen to take on a former champion. There is IndyCar as well, or even rally driving if he wants a real change. What I'm trying to say is that De Vries isn't going to struggle for a drive elsewhere in the world. That doesn't mean he doesn't want to come back to Formula 1 though. 24 hours after his Alpha Tauri ousting, Nyck De Vries was spotted in a Monaco cafe, having a sit-down with Mercedes motorsport boss Toto Wolff. But before the rumour mill hits high gear and declares Lewis Hamilton is out, Nyck De Vries is in at Mercedes, it should be noted Wolff and De Vries have known one another for years, with the Dutchman most likely turning to his former boss for commiseration and counselling. Nyck had stood at Toto's shoulder in the Mercedes garage for a few years before moving to Alpha Tauri, and if there were to be a way to get back on the grid, that is the place to be. He'll have to fight Mick for the spot on Toto's left shoulder though. Perhaps they could have a simulator shootout to see who is more deserving of the place. Since his sacking, Nyck has found himself in an awkward position after previous comments resurfaced, where he claimed that Lando Norris and Alex Albon were not superior to him during their Formula 2 days. These remarks have gained attention on social media, following the impressive performance of both drivers at the British Grand Prix. The comments made by De Vries were originally published in the Dutch newspaper Vries Dagblad, before his victorious Formula 2 campaign in 2019. Reflecting on his competition against Norris and Albon in the previous season, De Vries expressed his belief that they were not significantly better than him. I do not want to be arrogant at all, but Norris and Albon were, in my eyes, really no better than me, De Vries stated. Norris won only one race, Albon won 4, and I won 3. These resurfaced comments have garnered attention on social media platforms, with fans and followers noting the irony of De Vries' statement, given the recent performances of Norris and Albon in Formula 1. The negative attention that these comments have been receiving is pretty ridiculous considering the context. He's referring to the 2018 F2 season, after which Lando Norris and Alex Albon were both promoted to Formula 1, leaving Nyck to fight in the junior category for another season. He finished a mere 10 points behind Albon in 2018 and 17 behind Norris. He was disappointed in not getting the same opportunity as those two, which is understandable, but not really relevant to the situation in Formula 1 today. To finish off, let's talk about the ridiculousness of how Nyck and Alpha Tauri got to this situation. De Vries' performance at Monza last year was excellent. If a driver was to have a single Grand Prix stand as the reason they should or should not be signed, then this one was an emphatic case in De Vries' favour. But behaving so impulsively as to decide based on a single race is nonsensical. It's quite ludicrous that a modern F1 team can have such key decisions determined in this way. To have picked De Vries almost on a whim was bad enough, but to drop him just a few months into the season is even more baffling. In a way, Red Bull had nothing to gain by stringing him along until the end of the year and replacing him with possibly the same driver anyway. But then they also have nothing to lose. Alpha Tauri are not in a position to compete at the moment. Yuki Tsunoda has been doing everything he can to get points finishes, but the problem is that even when he has an incredible race, the top 6 teams are so closely matched there's no place for him in the top 10 cars. I love Daniel as much as the next person, but after his 2 seasons at McLaren, do Red Bull seriously think he can do any better? He may have performed well in the RB19 at the tyre test, but that isn't the car he'll be driving, and those weren't the tyres being used this season. All Red Bull have done is end Nyck De Vries' F1 aspirations and throw Daniel Ricciardo into an unwinnable position. But more on that in our next video. Do you agree Red Bull made a mistake with this decision? And do you think De Vries will make his way back to the grid at some point? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out our video on Daniel Ricciardo. And until next time, drive safe and bye for now.